I remember when I first started to consider doing a podcast, and I quickly dismissed the thought because I thought to myself, it's going to be way too much tech. It's going to be hard. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be like way too difficult, and there's no way that I can do it. But I want you to know that wasn't true. Have you heard about Anchor by Spotify? Actually, you kind of have because you are listening to my podcast right now, which is an Anchor podcast. Anchor is literally the easiest way to make a podcast. Everything you need is all in one place, and it's absolutely free. So, Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from either your phone or your computer. When you host on Anchor, it's super easy to distribute because they distribute for you, basically. They push it out to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and a lot more platforms. And it literally is everything that you need to make your podcast all in one place. I couldn't believe that it was free when I found out about it, but it absolutely is. So if that's something that you've been thinking about, if you want to start your own podcast, if you've had an idea rolling around in your brain, now is the time. All you have to do is download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hey there, I'm Julie, and this is the Married to Addiction podcast. If you're here, then you're probably what I call my secret sister. We're in a situation we never asked to be in and fighting a battle we never wanted to fight. We're faith-filled women who are married to an alcoholic, and it affects every inch of our lives. If that sounds like you, then this is a safe place for you to land. Married to Addiction is a faith-based podcast where I help you find the tools and strength you need to navigate your husband's addiction without losing yourself in the process. So please subscribe and tune in as often as you can, because your husband's recovery is important, but so is yours. Psst. Hey, I'm doing something that I've never done before, and I want to tell you about it. Pretty excited. For the month of August, I'm running a promotion for the Secret Sister Circle, and I literally have never done this before. Not sure I ever will again. Gonna see how it goes. Basically, right now, if you have ever considered joining the Secret Sister Circle, which of course is my membership for wives of alcoholics, but you either aren't sure it's for you, you're not sure it'll help you, you don't really know like what it's all about, like you kind of don't get how it works, then I am offering you a free trial. That's right, a free trial. Right now, when you join the Secret Sister Circle, you get your first 14 days for free. So that's 2 weeks to check out the lessons, the audio feed, the SSC toolbox, the private group, all the goodness for 2 weeks for free. If you decide to cancel before your first payment, you would just have to make sure that you give me notice at least 48 hours prior to the end of your trial period so that your payment can get canceled in time. And to do that, all you have to do is just email me. Of course, my email address is julie@marriedtoaddiction.com. So if you have ever been curious about the Secret Sister Circle, but have not joined for any of the reasons that I mentioned or anything else, now's your chance. Now's your chance to get in there and check it out absolutely free. To do so, all you have to do is just go to my website, marriedtoaddiction.com, click on the Secret Sisters, click on Get Help first, then the Secret Sister Circle drop down, and when you sign up, you'll get those 2 weeks for free. I can't wait to see you inside. Hello, and welcome to episode 53 of the Married to Addiction podcast. Today's episode is called Changing This Changes Everything. And I hope y'all still love me after this episode because I'm going to give you a little bit of tough love today. Would you believe me if I told you that you have the power to change some of the things you're going through right now for the better? As the wife of an alcoholic, we feel so helpless in this situation. But the truth of the matter is that's not really true. We are not completely helpless. In fact, I see women taking back their power and their lives in my Secret Sister Circle, my membership for wives of alcoholics, every day. I see it happening all the time. But then there are also some people who have joined my membership, not followed the process, not done the work. I don't really stalk what my members are doing, but I can see what lessons they're looking at, what they've actually done in there. And so when somebody puts in notice to leave, I usually go in and see, well, were they using it? What were they doing? And a lot of times the ones who leave were not. They weren't doing the work. So they basically came in, didn't do the work, and then they left with the same mindset and the same misery that they came in with, which obviously is not what I want for anybody who comes into that membership. So, what makes the difference? The difference is taking responsibility for the things that you can change. So, the people in my membership who've seen amazing changes in their lives are the ones who've done just that. They've taken responsibility for the things that they can change. But whether you're in the Secret Sister Circle or not, the bottom line is that we are not responsible for what our husbands are doing or not doing, of course, but we are responsible and also accountable for what we are doing or not doing. So we don't have control over what they're doing, but we do have control over what we are doing in response. The whole situation with my husband when he was deep in addiction made me take a long, hard look at myself, actually. I didn't expect that to be the case because I was so focused and hyper aware of what my husband was doing. But the fact of the matter is that God used that whole situation to change me and then in turn to change my whole life going forward. The things that I learned through that process and the ways that I grew during that time have improved my life so much in so many regards. I used to be so worried all the time. I lived in a state of worry. I used to tell people, and you may have heard me say this before, I can go from 0 to worst case scenario in 10 seconds. And it was true. I would worry myself into a frenzy. I would worry myself into having intestinal issues, which I'm sure you can understand what I'm talking about there. Um, I had so much worry in my life that it was just like the undercurrent of my life, which causes stress and anxiety and everything else. It was an awful way to live. And I just thought, well, I'm just a worrier. I should never have claimed that because I'm not a worrier. God did not create me to be a worrier. Now I can say that I have been able to get rid of a lot of worry in my life. And it was because of what I learned through walking through addiction with my husband. I used to have a lot of lack of trust in the Lord. That has been improved a 100-fold. I used to be quick to anger a lot of times. I had some bitterness that I didn't realize I was holding on to, and not just where my husband's situation was concerned, but in other areas of my life. I had a pretty sharp tongue. And sometimes that still rears its ugly head. But guess what? It's nowhere near like it was because I have gotten victory over all of these things. And it has just had like a domino effect in my life. I used to stay in a spirit of misery for days, weeks, months on end because I had no control over my mind. I didn't realize I could take control over my mind and take thoughts captive and therefore get so much peace in my life because of that. I wasn't always acting Christ-like, and of course, I don't always act Christ-like now either because I'm human, but that has changed and gotten so much better. My attitude, not being so argumentative, and of course, no one is perfect, and I still struggle in all of these areas sometimes, but it is so much better than it used to be, and my life is so much better because of it. But I had to accept responsibility for working on those things. I had to work on cleaning up my side of the street, as they say, for me, not for my husband, but for me. I had to look at what could I accept responsibility for and change for me. And I was the one who got the benefit from that. I can tell when some women leave my program that they're going to go right back to life as it was before. They're going to keep complaining about everything that their husband is doing. And they're going to do pretty much nothing different on their side of things. Now, they may say that they're working on some stuff, and they may well be, but they're not to the place yet where they're really, really willing to take responsibility for what they can change. And the cycle that they're in of that misery and stress and anxiety will continue forever unless they ever get to the place where they are willing to let God do a good work in them instead of only looking to Him to change their husbands. So I ask you, is there anything that God might be trying to work out in you through this? Some examples would be, are you letting a spirit of worry and fear rule your life like I did? Have you allowed bitterness and resentment to take up permanent residence in your mind? Does anger take up more room in your heart than the Holy Spirit does? Are you the loudest voice in your husband's ear, making it hard for him to hear the Lord? These are all things that God may be trying to work out in you. And a lot of these God had to work out in me as well. Now, I'm not trying to guilt trip you. There's no guilt allowed here because we've all been here and it's an easy place to get trapped. But I want to give you some examples of how the enemy uses this situation to take us down too. He doesn't just want our husbands, he wants us, he wants our family, he wants to take all of us down. And he absolutely loves it when we are constantly in that state of worry, anger, fear, hopelessness, all of it. He loves that. But that is not the life that Christ died to give you. So what can you do? What can you do? You can take responsibility for you. As Christian women, it is our responsibility to rise up and take hold of God's truths. It is our responsibility to change what we can change. And then our lives, as I said earlier, will change too. It is our responsibility to learn how to truly lay our burdens at the Lord's feet as He has instructed us to do. It is our responsibility to allow Him to do the good work in us that He's trying to do so that we can be changed for the better through this. And we will be delivered from it, not by our husbands getting sober, but by God our Father. Doing these things that we've talked about today, it can really 100% change how you go through this situation. I promise you, regardless of what your husband is doing, you can have a different experience through this situation, and you can grow and you can learn and you can change and you can experience peace and joy right here, right now. But you have to take responsibility for your part and let God do the good work in you that He's trying to do. I love you enough to tell you that. A little bit of tough love, but I'm only telling you this because I learned this the hard way through my experience. And I stayed in all those places that we just talked about for way longer than I should have and went through a lot of unnecessary pain because of it. Of course, if you want some step-by-step help to work on these things that we've talked about today, that is exactly the work that we do in the Secret Sister Circle. I would love to have you join us. As always, right now it is free for 14 days too. You can try it basically for 14 days, 2 weeks for free. So if you want to do that, just head to my website, marriedtoaddiction.com, and click the drop down that says Get Help, and you will see it right there. I hope that has been helpful for you. As always, thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time. Quick question for you before I let you go today. Have you been to the Married to Addiction website? If you haven't, I would love if you would go pay it a visit. It's just marriedtoaddiction.com. And over there, you can see just a lot of different information about my podcast. There is a blog on there. There's some free resources for you. And there's also a few ways that you can actually get some help if you need a little more help and direction and support as you travel this difficult path with your addicted husband. So if you haven't yet, please go visit marriedtoaddiction.com. Thanks so much.